When we say you can get to 100K, we show it in the spreadsheet. Listen in as the two business guys mastermind using the numbers. This business podcast, the two business guys mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Today's episode, we're actually doing numbers, everyone. I just showed Rob mine, and then now he's showing me his. So,
and this is something that we're going to be putting together, thinking about putting out for those of you all that are in business, because these are a couple of different things that are really going to help.
And one of the things that you'll notice is that, and the one that I had up earlier, what I did was I portioned percentages to different products, right? So I says, okay, here's what I want in terms of salary per month. And then here are the things that I do. And then I put a percentage. I believe that, let's say, teaching and coaching might bring this much. I say that affiliate marketing might bring this much, books, digital products, et cetera, et cetera. You can extend this out. So now Rob is showing me one that is, what you say, Rob, you have as if you had 12 different products?
Yeah. So, and the formula for break even again is the sum of your unit price minus your variable cost. Or actually, we could just do it even simpler. Is your gross profit, is your fixed cost divided by your gross profit.
Right.
Divided by gross profit. And so, boom. So in this example, right, it shows you that if you have zero variable costs and you have $5,160 in fixed cost, then you need 344 units in order to break even, right?
Yep.
So we got that. That's simple. We understand that. Now, the second piece to this, again, when we were talking about, right, the three different stages of a business, because what most business owners struggle with is it feels like it's all kind of conjecture. It feels like it's all over the place. And so the key is, when you look at this, projecting in a business is a multi-layered project. It's understanding where you are now, understanding what your ultimate desires are, what your definition of done is, right? But also understanding what the intermediate steps are that are necessary to get there, right? You're not going to make this one quantum leap from where I am now to my amazing business, right? And so many business owners get kind of frustrated with that because it's hard to figure out how to get there. And so it feels like this, just impossible dream. And so what we want people to be able to do is when you're looking at something like this, and let's say you have 12 different things that you look at, right? You can create an ideal scenario where you actually look at these things and you say, here are my variable costs, here's everything else, and this is what I want my business to look like eventually, right? And the document that we're putting together, that we've been working on, will tell you, for your ideal dream, how many of each unit do you need to sell at what price point, based on what we can see now. What do you need to do? What type of business do you need to build? That's one very valuable, important piece of information, because it tells you, right, whether or not, it tells you how far away from that you are currently, right? But some people are in different stages of their business. And one of the things that we like to do is then take people back to, what does the here and now look like, right? And the here and now is where, instead of you looking at your break evens for these things, you actually put in your actual numbers. So instead of having 15, seeing that we need to do 344 units sold, what you would do here is you look at and you say, well, we normally sell 200 units a month. And so it tells you exactly how much you're missing, how behind you are. And down here in your units to break even, it tells you how much your business needs to grow, right? It says your business needs to grow 1.7 right times 172% is what your business needs to grow in order for you to start breaking even. So then it gives you a target for what you need to do in order to even get to break even, because a lot of businesses aren't in break even. But then the cool part is when you're in break even already, now you can start setting targets and saying, okay, if we want to get here, and here's the beauty of it, it will tell you, let's say that, for example, we know there was 344 units to break even, but let's say we're at 360 right now, right? So it tells you that you are already breaking even in this job, right? And again, this will do this across all 12 of these things. So it says that you're making $240 more than you need right now. But let's say that you wanted to buy a piece of machinery or you wanted to do something like that, then you can look in here, right? And when you go back over here to say machinery loan, right, that you know you're going to pay for. So this is, again, aspirational. You're adding a couple things. And let's say you want to pay $500 a month on a machinery loan that's going to increase production and do all the rest of the type of stuff, but you want to start saving for it now. This tells you what your business has to do now in order to get there, right? And you can even take this back, instead of trying to do the math and everything, you take this back to 1 and you say, oh, we need to do 377.3 units a month, whereas we know we're at 360 right now.
So it just tells you the difference. Again, it's doing the math for you. And this is what we oftentimes tell our entrepreneurs: listen, we use these kind of things, and I'm not a math genius by any stretch of the imagination, right? So let's get over that, right? And you may not be either, but that's why we use the spreadsheet,
right?
And that's why we have the spreadsheet do some. It tells us when you get up in the morning. This is the power.
Yes.
It tells us what you should be concentrating on today based on what you want for your money.
That's the key.
Right now.
Yes.
When we, and this is the part I think that helps drive us. Now, Rob and I, you've heard this before. We talked about the pathway to 100K. We are actually have pitched it to a company, and they might kind of like roll us in and say, okay, do it with us, for us, and for our people. So we're working
now. Yep,
that's right. We're working on some things like that. So these are the parts that we are kind of like in the background doing. We're kind of going, okay, what would be some of the main maps I would need on this pathway?
Right.
And this is the part, main maps.
Right. And more importantly, instead of just having the tools, because I think the one thing that I know, this has been my experience, Randy, and we've talked about this kind of off camera, what we notice is that there's tools that are out there that, right, there's financial tools that wizards know how to use, right? But what does the beginning entrepreneur, what does the normal entrepreneur need to know, and how do they need to know it? And I've read, I've been through a number of these courses. That we just finished the 250 project that we did, and so we learned some different things in there. And I've been through a number of different courses. Plus, right, I have a degree in economics. Like, I studied a lot of this stuff at various different levels. And the one thing that I've learned over the 20 years that I've been looking at business, studying businesses, there's a lot of stuff that is instrumental to business that you have to have a good understanding of if you're going to run your business, and if you're going to be able to hire somebody to actually run that part of your business. That the teaching materials take a long time to help people understand the functionality of these things. And so one of the things that we're trying to put together, and I'm trying to put together, is how do I make these things more functional so that people understand why the tool is important, right? Like, it's almost that type of thing that if you had no concept of what a hammer was, if you had never seen a hammer before, you'd never seen a hammer used before, and then somebody just introduced a hammer to you, and they told you about, okay, so this is what a hammer does, and this is what it's for, and all the rest of types of things. But you didn't know that you had to go to the store to get nails before you could have nails to hammer in, right? It would frustrate you to no end, because you would have this hammer and you'd be going around trying to hammer stuff, but you have nothing to hammer, because they didn't give you the fundamental understanding of there's some processes before you start hammering things. You have to go get nails. You have to figure out what you're trying to put together. Like, all of those things that seem intuitive, that seem obvious, that seem commonplace, but they're only commonplace because people have already come to learning about a hammer, quote unquote, with that knowledge. Whereas most business owners don't come to this type of stuff when we're talking about business fundamentals with the previous knowledge of understanding how to break all this stuff down. I mean, how many times do we have to go through variable costing and units of sale and all the rest of that? And people are like, what are you talking about? Right? Because most most entrepreneurs don't sell units of sale. They sell conglomerates of units of sale.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the way businesses are created. And so you have to break it down to its essentials. And why do I say that? Because remember, I told you I wanted to show you. So one of the things that I began creating is a breakdown series of worksheets that kind of prepare people to get ready to use this worksheet in the most effective and most efficient manner, so that you're not spending hours trying to figure out where to put things in the spreadsheet, right? So the first thing is a list of unit costs, right? So many of the entrepreneurs that I deal with, restaurateurs, people that are making different scented candles or juices or all these different types of things, right? That are manufacturing things. They actually have lots of different unit costs, right? I remember one of my clients owns a chicken wing store, right? Down in Tennessee. And we put together this list, and this is an example list, but we put together a list of everything that they buy, because right, they sell a 10-wing dinner, but it's not just 10 wings that's in that 10-wing dinner. There's 10 wings that's in that dinner. There's a styrofoam or a paper box. There's seasonings, there's sauce, there's fries, there's dinner roll, there's drink, there's all these types of things that go into that. But the price is for the meal. It's not individually priced, and then you just pay per wing and pay. Like that's not how they run their business. And so breaking all of this down becomes really difficult. And so what we did is we put together this thing. So you got a list of unit costs, right? So basically, if you look at chicken wings, here's the other funny thing. They don't buy chicken wings in 10 pieces or 18 pieces or 24 pieces like they sell them.
Probably
they buy
like
chicken
200,
wings.
something like that.
Right, exactly,
Yeah,
in a case, right? And so but then there's also shipping costs that's involved with that. There's also preparation costs, all those different types of things. So you make sure you have all of your costs together. And then what you do is the spreadsheet will calculate for you what your cost per menu unit item is.
So in other words, to sell this one thing, you should charge this, or this is what it costs.
This is what it's costing you. Not even so much what you should charge yet, but this is what it's costing you, real costs. So that you don't, because, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that what they'll do is they'll look at their bill, and they know that a case of chicken is $1.30. I mean, it's $129 or $79 or whatever it is. But then they don't add the shipping cost and the credit card charge and all those other types of things, right? And when they don't add that to the cost of the chicken, then what winds up happening is that gets paid out of their pocket, but it doesn't get paid for by their customer. Going broke. Exactly. It doesn't get paid for by their customer, and they're wondering why they're not making as much money as they think they should be making. What I like to call these holes in the bucket, right? Leaks in the bucket. And so first thing that we do is we go through everything that you buy so that we can actually show you what it costs from buying it and then to producing it. What is that cost, right? But that's not where we stop. Then there's a section, and if you remember, when we look at our sheet, right? We've got variable costs, right? Variable costs are the aggregation of all of those individual unit costs that go into a unit of sale, right? And so what we do is we created a worksheet that actually allows you to figure out exactly what all of your variable costs are for your individual units of sale. But instead of having to kind of, we've walked hundreds of entrepreneurs through this now, and most of the time somebody's got a sheet of paper and a pen, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're trying to remember out of their head and all the rest of that. That's really inefficient. It's really difficult. So what we did in this suite of things that we're putting together, what we did is we've linked now this list of unit costs, which you can outsource to whoever it is that's buying stuff in your company, or to an accountant or a bookkeeper or whoever it is. You can have them go through and change the list of unit costs in here. But the beauty of it is it's linked to this worksheet. So when that changes, so for example, you see that wings are 75 cents over here right now. If I go back here and the price of wings goes up to $200.10, right?
That's so perfect. Especially now, right? Because we've seen fluctuation in pricing, and they call it inflation, but we've seen that fluctuation in pricing, and you've got that same price, and for maybe 3 months, you're losing money.
Exactly. So now what you see is when the price changes, it changes right there in the cost per unit, right? But then we've got it linked to your variable cost worksheet so that it changes here as well. So now you see how the prices that impact your daily life impact how much it costs you to produce your goods. Now, instead of having to do that work all over again every time, you do the work once and it flows through.
Right. And the power, I think, now, everyone, if you're listening to this and you see it as valuable, number one, if you're hearing this on YouTube, go ahead and like the channel, send it out to some people, share it, do all that kind of stuff, comment on it. if this right here, as I look at it, could save your business. It just absolutely can. And one of the things I wrote down, and I remember doing some contests on this. I says, okay, whoever can win, how can your company make money and still go broke? How are you going broke making money? I remember putting out a contest like three or 4 years ago, and I had a couple people try at it, and then one person win. And it really came from my experience in the real estate business, right? When I was buying houses and stuff, and you got all these houses and you don't know, you're putting all this money, you're pulling it out of your pocket, and you don't even know that your rent's not going to cover that because you hadn't put in some things, all kind of cool stuff, right? So you're making money, but you're going broke.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what we're really trying to help entrepreneurs to figure out how to get around. And the beauty of it is, right, the reason why I set this up the way I set up, because I've seen, there's software applications that work for particular businesses, or there's different packages that entrepreneurs, that sell courses and training courses and things like that will sell. But there's not one that really says, here's how you build it for your business, right? Here's how you quickly, effectively, efficiently, right? What this is really designed to do is to help business owners to reduce the time that it takes to A, understand this, and B, to make it useful, to make it operational in your business. That's the whole goal of what we're building out here. And so by the time that this suite of spreadsheets is ready, what we're going to actually have is that from your list of unit costs all the way to your break-even spreadsheet is completely linked. So when you change the prices of your list of unit costs, then everything will change and it will roll up. But then more importantly, the break-even spreadsheets, you'll have the opportunity to do what is our current state, what is our intermediate state, and what is our ideal state as well. So you'll be able to see how all that stuff changes depending on what's happening in the market right now. So connecting the dots between the future and the present. That's the ultimate goal of this suite.
That's so brilliant. And I think this is one of the things when we start talking about, now this is separate stuff, right? Rob and I, we do separate things in our businesses, but I can see connectivity, even if, let's say, for example, I buy a lot of software, I buy a lot of apps and stuff like that help me with productivity, the same shit, right? But I can see you plug in, I just bought this software. So then it's going to change. Okay, so you bought this software and you're thinking, okay, I just spent, $300 on this new blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you don't put that in because you go, well, I bought this software, but you now need to see the impact that software, that app is going to have on what you now need to go out and do to not only cover it, but to make money as a result of it.
Exactly. And so often
that's how you leak that money out.
So often that work, like, it's excruciating. I mean, a lot of this comes from, I've struggled with this personally with my business as well. We've talked about it, right? A lot of the decisions that we have to make as business owners, right? It's a gut feeling, or we think we got enough information. But if you're trying to, like, there's so many things out there that are like, do it yourself, learn to do it, etc. But they literally require you becoming an expert at things in order to do it. This is the whole design of this is to take lowest common denominator. If you own a business, here's some basic understanding of, you go shopping, take your shopping list, put it over here, boom, 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 boom. Life is good. Whenever you go shopping and you add more stuff, you can add more stuff to your list, but the list stays consistent. To make it really easy for business owners, not as financial gurus, not as teachers, not as professors, not as any of the rest of that type of stuff, but as business owners coming from wherever they come from. You don't got to be super good at math at this. You got to understand basic arithmetic. And if you can run a business, then you understand basic arithmetic because you understand you got to make more than you, right? than you pay out. Otherwise, you're not in business. Just basic, simple stuff. The whole goal of this is then to allow you to utilize what large corporations, they have entire finance organizations that do this work. This is their entire job. Their entire job is to aggregate all of this data, figure out all this stuff, and then create reports. What we're doing, right, because large organizations are immensely more complicated, but in small organizations, it's still complicated enough that it frustrates the mind. And it makes people start to just not do the work. There's so many people that are just like, you know what, I'm just not going to look at it. And as
I'm
long
not good
as
with numbers or whatever.
Exactly. And then but they always wondering, why do I feel broke? I'm doing all this work. Why do I feel so broke? Right. And now we'll give you we'll be able to shine a light. Right. I've done this with a couple of my clients. And one of the things that is always interesting to them when we go through this work is it's like, it's like a light bulb goes off. They're like, that's why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. Right. I did it with one of my clients, and we realized when we started doing this and looking at the pricing that they were pricing everything 13% below what they needed to price it in order to hit the numbers that they wanted to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it makes sense when you see that, oh, I got 13% of my revenue going out of this hole in the bucket. Why I feel like I don't have as much money as I'm supposed to have. Like, you can, that makes sense. But when you don't know what it is, you don't know what to fix. You don't know where to go. You just know that there's a problem, but you don't know how to actually impact the problem. Another one of my clients, I was able to help him. He had a gut feeling that he should make this change, right? And again, he's in the restaurant business, and he had this gut feeling that he should spend $1,000 for this grease filtration machine.
Mm-hmm.
It was his gut feel. He knew, he kind of in his mind, he knew that it was right, but he couldn't articulate why it was right. He couldn't convince himself completely. So now he's procrastinating because he's not fully for it. We go ahead and we look at how much he's spending on new oil and how much he's spending on the pickup and drop off and all the rest of that. And he's spending like $3,000 a month on new oil and all the rest of this. And the $1,000 implementation would reduce his oil cost by 90%. It would pay for itself in a month.
See, now that's the power. I want everyone to hear that and understand that we don't want to, bog you down with, oh my gosh, you're talking about numbers, you're talking about spreadsheets. You hear Rob is saying with what he's doing with his company, and I'm going to obviously try to borrow some of this for like the pathway to 100K and all these different things, right? And stuff that I do. But it tells you, you don't need to, brute force this thing.
Yes. Smarter,
plug in
not
the
harder.
numbers. Let the numbers tell you when a specific thing will pay itself back, right? When a specific thing will pay itself back, and watch the numbers move. But it'll also probably tell you when you look at your spreadsheet. Me personally, Rob, I think that's the first thing you, as a business owner, that's what you should be looking at every day.
Yes.
You should be looking at your revenue reports, and you should be reminding yourself what you need to do to make those revenue reports look the way you want them to look. So you look at your spreadsheet, right? Even on the simple ones, when we talk about just break even, you start saying, okay, well, I need to sell 15 of these every single day. And then when you say, well, how am I going to sell 15 of these things? My thing is until Saturday. I'm not going to do a pop-up shop until whenever. Well, you say, well, wait a minute. What if I was selling these things online? Or what if I had some other people selling them for me? In other words, some affiliates or all that kind of stuff. Plug the numbers in. Okay, I got to pay the affiliates 30%, but they are putting them in front of their audience. And my goodness, I'm getting all these. That becomes the power of just looking at your spreadsheet and understanding your revenue statements every single day, so that you know what you got to do, right? Hey, I'm way ahead of the game. All right, you can knock out, go to the beach.
Yep.
Yeah,
no,
it's not just work. It's I'm working smart because my numbers tell me where I'm at.
That's the whole thing. I've heard you say this so many times, and I think that it's so profound. It's so simple, but it's so profound, right?
Yeah, simple but not easy, right?
Right, exactly. Because the whole idea is your spreadsheet, your numbers will tell you what you need to do.
Yes.
Your numbers will give you insight. You're right. And you say it this way: your business will tell you what it needs.
Yes.
If you set it up properly so that you can actually communicate with it. These spreadsheets allow you to communicate with your business, so your business can say, excuse me, I need a little bit more sales over here. Or, excuse me, I need you to reduce the cost of these subscriptions over here. Right? Your business will tell you that. But so many business owners don't have that interface, don't have that communication with their business. The only communication that we generally have with our business is our bank account. Right? And the problem with that is it's so volatile, right? Because you're always making sales and you're always making expenditures, that oftentimes you lose in the noise
like
what your
tense,
business is telling you.
Current tense.
A is dead data, but B, you lose in the noise what it's telling you, because it's telling you so much. It's information overload. Right. That's one of the reasons why, even when you look at, like, one thing you said, and this is where I would push back just a little bit. You talked about, you want to look at this every day. I wouldn't recommend that you look at these things every day.
That's like
only because
on the scale every day, isn't it?
Exactly. Only because you want to be able to use this to plan, and then to to be disciplined in following that plan, so that then you can look at the results of that plan to see if it actually did what you thought it was going to do.
I like that.
Right. Whereas when we look at it every day, then you start making changes every day, and there's no consistency. But I would definitely recommend that everybody look at this at least once a month, and that you then make your weekly standards of what you're supposed to do based on that monthly plan. right? But even just knowing this monthly, which is how the spreadsheets are set up, it dramatically impacts your ability to communicate with your business. So now you can think 30 days in advance and you can ask a question like, oh, I have 3 sales days this month, pop-up shops, whatever the case may be. And I know that I need to sell 15 a day. I normally sell 200 at each sales day. So 200, that's 600. 15 a day is 15 times 30 or 31, whichever one you want to take. So, if you just do that simple math, right? And here's the calculator, right? 15 times 30, I have to sell 450. I normally sell, so I only need to do those 3 sales days. We good. I just need to prepare to maximize those 3 sales days, and I'm good for the month.
Now that's the beautiful part, right? It's so amazing to me. And when I started really digging into, spreadsheets and stuff like that, and I started kind of going, man, this is the way we ought to be running. This is the path.
Yes.
Right. So when we start thinking about the pathway to 100K, then we can apply that to, okay, 100K win, 100K a year. Some people go, that's good money. Well, what about 100K a month? What about 100K a week? I mean, now these numbers sound like, oh my gosh, but they sound like that because we are unaware of what's needed, of which line or lane of our business can get us there, right? So that's what Rob was talking about. What he's creating is that you'll be able to see which ones do what. Here's the impact of cost. Now you have an opportunity to go, hey, wait a minute, I need to make a phone call. I think you need to give me a better deal or go find a better. It's the wonderful thing about running your business.
Exactly.
If you've got a clear path to 100K,
exactly,
whether that's a week, a month, or a year,
that's so
you
powerful.
just walk the path. Rob, when I had mentioned this months ago, right? And then we just mentioned this to the organization, says, hey, listen, they were thinking some of the same things. How can we get people to a certain spot? And we thought, why don't we just bring what we've already been, talking about and laying out over here and utilize it, right? So we kind of do it in partnership. Why don't we do that? Because it makes sense. If we can, put these things in place, and these are some of the tools that are involved in it. Now, mine was a little bit, it was more heavy on different softwares and just showing people, listen, here's the pathway, but you're going to need these walking shoes. Okay, there might be a snake coming out, so you're going to use this stick just in case. I mean, these are the things, right? And here's what you want to consider. If it's getting sunny out, so you need to take a break here, right? These are the things that when we talked about pathway to 100K, that's it. Spreadsheeting, seeing where you're at. Cost-wise, what do I have to do? Projections. All right, got my path. All right, and then here are the tools to use. Are y'all seeing it? Simple, but not easy.
Exactly.
We're saying to you that we believe that if you put it out. Now, also, here's something, Rob. What do you think about this? It should also tell you if you've got what Chris Mathis and I like to call cupcakes and beads businesses, right? Now, the cupcakes and beads businesses is not an actual cupcake. It's a metaphor for, hey, this is something that once eaten is gone. Cupcakes, or it's kind of flimsy. You pull on it, all kind of mayhem happens, right? It just breaks apart. Cupcakes and bees kind of business. So it will tell you if you are in the right kind of business to get you to where you want to go. And you may have to pivot. You may have to add. You may have to get strategic. You may have to get partners. You may have to talk to the bakers that's doing millions and millions and they need help. Whatever. It helps you make a decision.
Right. It tells you whether or not the pathway that you're on will get you where you're trying to go. And I think that piece right there is the quintessential kind of reason why we're talking about this, thinking about this. There's so many business owners that walk through the limbo of, I think this can get me there, but I'm not sure. And I know that there's people that are sort of doing what I'm doing, but I don't know if they're doing it right. Because part of the reason why we start business is because we're doing it differently, right? Very rarely do people go and, you know what, I'm gonna do the exact same thing this person over here is doing, right? There's some competitive advantage that we think that we have, which is how we're doing it differently. The problem though is you don't know whether your different is actually in the right pathway, right? And a lot of people think that it's based on luck. I highly disagree, right? Case in point, I had 2 different businesses, one multi-billion-dollar corporation that I was consulting with, one small business owner. Same idea though. In the small business case, the cost of chicken went from, I want to say somewhere around $70 a case to about $140 a case, almost it doubled in price, double. Right? All right. And this is, of course, the major thing that they do. And so their margins went from somewhere around 60% margins to about 25% margins. That immediately cuts half of the money that you have to run your business, right? But the problem was, even though they knew that it was eating into their profitability, they didn't have a clear grasp and understanding of how much it was eating into their profitability and what the impact of it was overall in the business. They just knew it was bad, right? That gut feeling again.
Yeah, I know this is bad. My price is going up double. That's bad.
Right. Common sense stuff, right? Like, but they didn't know how bad, and they didn't know how to make adjustments so that it would not be as bad. But by laying all this out, they were able to figure out that it was worth it to them to start looking around for better chicken, even if that meant driving 2 hours from their local marketplace to get that chicken, because they could do the comparative. And so they were able to bring that price down from $140. So they did one negotiation and they were getting it for $100. Then they found another place and they were getting it for $80. Now they're getting it for $90. Now they're getting it for roughly the same prices that it was before, even though the price of chicken has not come down that much. But because they were able to leverage the power of understanding markets and understanding the actual true cost of the convenience that they had of the vendor that they were with, they were able to then leverage all of that to get the price dropped. And so now they're making those margins back of 50 and 60% on chicken, even though the price of chicken, like I said, has not declined to make those margins happen. But they were able to take a different path because they were able to see the numbers. So take that case, small business did the same thing in a big business. In a big business, they had a problem where there was waste. They were throwing away about, when we did back of the napkin math, it was about $120,000 a year of wasted material because they had a machine that was the wrong size to deal with the material. So they would rip the material so that they could actually fit it through the machine, because that was the most expedient thing to do. This had been a problem for about 7 or 8 years. When we did the actual math, it was closer to $250,000 to $300,000 of waste every year. So this was a $1.2 million problem over the time that it existed, right? But the reason that they had never gotten the new implementation was because the new implementation was like $25,000. That's a big chunk of change. Yeah, and now, mind you, nobody knew how much they were throwing away before I went and did the math and talked to everybody. They just knew that it was a lot. That was what came to me, because when I was working with the leaders, I was like, so what's a problem that you all are having that you want to solve? And they told me about this problem. They were like, oh, we're wasting a lot of material, blah, blah, blah. So how much are you wasting? I don't know, but it's a lot. Like, give me an idea. What's
I got a gut feeling, but I don't know what it is.
Right. Give me an idea. What's a lot? And they were like, oh, it's a whole lot. It's a lot of money. It's definitely worth fixing. Give me a ballpark dollar figure. Well, I can't really give you I don't really know how much. I was like, okay. So that's when we had to sit down and was like, let's look at this. Let's do basic math. How much does this cost? What percentage of it are you throwing away? Boom. And so that was the back of the napkin math. Long story less long. It took being able to explain we're throwing away $250,000 to $300,000 when we could just buy something for $25,000 that would eliminate all of that waste. That means that you get the $25,000 back 3 months from now.
That's so, Rob, what you're talking about is so powerful. And, we want to know, what are you thinking? Again, we do these workshops, we do these as webinars, we do these as YouTubes, right? So we're asking the audience, if you're on YouTube, right, or if you're seeing this on the webinar, you can DM us. What would that be worth to you? Right? You tell us, what would it be worth to see your numbers moving like that, and to not have to do all of this? Oh my gosh, I got to go to Udemy and get a course, and then I got to spend hours and all this kind of stuff to figure it out, where you've just got the sheet, and then you get the people helping you explain it. What would that be worth to you? If you got those kind of gut feelings, listen to what I'm saying to you all. If you got those kind of gut feelings, I think I'm not making a lot of money in my business, because although I'm creating revenue, profits not showing up in my pocket. I don't have as many foldy things. What's going on? Oh, cost. Well, what cost? How much cost? And then what can you now do as you look at the competition? Now, this is the kind of stuff that we do, right? We tell you this stuff. We say, well, your competition's already raised their prices by 13.5%. And you're, what? Yes, they're already raising it up and people are accepting it. I just read something today that some companies are raising their prices because people are accepting them. Exactly. So you got Powell that's saying, well, we're raising up interest rates to kind of, dampen down inflation. And then companies are already going, yeah, but we're raising the prices. Why? Because people are reasonably price insensitive. They're going, I'll take it. Like Amazon called me up and says, hey, listen, they don't call me, but hey, Jeff, how are you? If they called me up and says, hey, listen, Prime is now $149. I literally looked at it today. It's $139. And I kind of looked over there because out of my side eye says, now I got a number. You go too high, I'm firing you.
That's the key.
Right. But right now, because I still get my stuff, next day, books come all the time and all this. So I'm like, okay. And I'm getting all these free movies. I can watch those. Right. So I'm still going, it's still a value.
Yeah.
Imagine looking at your spreadsheet and you're saying, I'm undervalued, or we show you this is where you're undervalued. Based on what we see out in the marketplace, based on what we know you can get because you got a good product, you've got good value, you're undervalued. So now you get an opportunity to go, what if I lowered cost here and then I raised a low pricing here because everybody else is doing it, and then I increase the value proposition there. Now you're doing a good book of business. The pain of not doing that should be obvious. Do I have to tell you? Don't step on that nail. It will destroy your toe. Because I'll tell you, the pain should be obvious. The pain of not doing this, putting your head in the sand in this environment will ruin your business. And we don't want to see you with a ruined business. So look at what we're talking about. Decide for yourself. Send us information. We don't want to slap an investment price on this. We're kind of saying, what is it worth to you? I mean, we may have to do something just to kind of see what happens, but we believe that something like this could make a difference, all the difference, right? It could have you still in business while other people are going, I just went out of business. All of a sudden, I had no more money. Think about it, and let's get back to us.
Yes.
So, Rob, what do you think, man? I had some other things I wanted to get into, but we just hit it, I think, right where it needed to be today.
So I agree. I think that you laid it out perfectly. At the end of the day, if you're out there, if you're struggling with trying to figure out what your next move should be, whether or not you're doing the right things in your business, whether or not you're making sound money decisions, this is the reason why we're creating this. Is the reason why we're putting it together. Let us know if that would be interesting to you. Put it in the comments, put it in the chat, send us an email, something. Just let us know. Yeah, I would love to know more about that, because we're going to be putting together. You see how we do it.
We have our own individual business. We bring these businesses to our podcast and we talk about them. We not only do that, but we talk about some of the things that we see other businesses doing, right? And we're ramping that part up because we're seeing a lot of businesses leave money on the table. We're seeing a lot of business owners put their heads in the sand. And quite frankly, it's hurting my heart to see that. They got a good business. They're tired. Things have happened in life. Things have happened in the economy. And they're going, I don't know if I want to do this, until they see these numbers. That's the part. Until they go, wait a minute, I could still make this happen. Yeah, you could. And if I automated this, then I wouldn't have to, be there all the day. That's when I bring in the tools.
Exactly.
Right. We're going to automate that. Oh, what if about my ad buying? Oh, I got some tools for that. I'll show you. Right? Simple, but not easy.
Exactly.
Decide for yourself. Get back to us. Rob, thanks again, man. Appreciate
Always
you talking about this, getting into this. I showed my spreadsheet. You showed me yours. And well, yours looked pretty good. All right. Let's talk again next week.
All right. Talk to you later, brother.